Here's the plan. We hold the world ransom for $1 million.
That's right. We got ransomware, and more ransomware. We got PLC, remote code execution, all coming up here on OT Exposed Raw. $1 million or 17 or what was it? $70 million was the last one, but they're not getting paid. We're going to talk about that. My attire today is my Goonies. I got the Goonies video game in the background, and this is the closest thing I had to anything dealing with ransom. But it just seems like ransomware is all in the news. But I mean, what's interesting now is that it's not just ransomware in the news. Now we've got weird things happening to the threat actors. We got weird things happening in nation states, and we got government doing stuff. So a lot of interesting topics today, and there's so many topics. We probably won't be able to talk about all of them or all of them at length. But this is going to be an interesting episode. So let's welcome fresh back from vacation is Pascal.
Hey, thanks for letting me be on during my vacation time. Wow, man.
Oh, is this still your vacation?
Technically, it's still my vacation, but you know what? This is so much fun. I just consider it vacation as well. It's just another holiday day.
I'm not ignoring you on purpose. Actually, I am. I'm just my team's meeting was popping up because people don't know how to let me have quiet. my quiet time. It's my special time.
You need
to not disturb, bitches.
All right, you get cranky. Hiding in the basement today because they joke sometimes. There's only two seasons here in Montana, and that's winter and it's forest fire time. So
that's really kind of like Colorado too.
Yeah, for different reasons. It's coming here too. 2022, I think they open up. But anyway, yeah, there's forest fires all around us, and I can't even see the neighbors almost. It's that dense.
Really? Wow.
Yep. So it's
interesting.
It's better to be inside. There's actually a safety precaution going around to stay inside and to take it easy, which I'm doing.
You know what? It fits the theme, right? Fits the theme. Instead of a forest fire, this show's a dumpster fire most of the time. So let's go. And speaking of I'm
dumpster fires
about your allegiances. You were Chinese last week. This week you're Pascal. But Yanda Govaruparovsky, myself. Привет. So anyway, let's welcome our guest because he's just sitting back there, probably thinking we're idiots, knowing we're idiots.
He'd be right.
So I've been wanting to get this guy on for a while. I met him quite a while ago. Been friends for. Well, at least I consider him my friend. It's probably a stretch for him to want to call me a friend. But anyway, that's not true. He has a man crush on me. That's why I let him on the show. And because he's smart and technical and all that good stuff. Let's welcome, can't even say his name, Scott McNeil from GPA. What's up, man?
Yeah, and about that man crush,
it's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
I thought you grew out of it.
No. Ever since the days of the classes that we went to together, it was amazing.
Well,
you guys starting to look like each other. Just pointing it out.
That's been a goal of both of ours.
It has been.
So, actually, started off that way. So we met several years back at the con formerly known as WiseCon, which is now the Industrial Cybersecurity Conference.
The Joe Weiss Solution Con.
Yeah. So But it's the Industrial Cybersecurity Conference, now owned and hosted by Security Week, in Atlanta still. And so that's where we met. We've had many drinks and many whistle pigs, and I think what really the bond that made us was the night that I stayed up. We all stayed up drinking until like 2 a.m. and I hadn't done my presentation yet, and so I'm sure Mike Lennon's going to love hearing this. That's right, he's got the Threat Gen 0 day drink. Yeah, he's
Threat Gen 0
sponsoring. He's sponsoring. Now they're not sponsoring, and we're not sponsoring. We have no sponsors here. These are not the sponsors you're looking for. But before we chase off too many viewers again, let's get into some topics here. So I will drink out of my nondescript coffee mug. It has nothing to do with our guest today. It's been the same coffee mug that I've been using the whole time. I just happen to like the GPA mug, both the one I'm drinking them and the one on our screen now. All right, zang. Let's get into our topics. So the first one is this one had me in this one was funny. This one had me in stitches, quite frankly. And so this one, and it hasn't been substantiated at all, but hackers derail Iran's train system, and they post the Supreme Leader's phone number as the helpline. And that hasn't been substantiated. I don't know if it's true or not. I guess it means the same thing, but in the end, it's funny. I just think that's hilarious.
They talk about that the number what they did is they just redirected the helpline to the guy's personal number. So the guy's personal number wasn't actually put out there, but they redirected everything to it, which to me is
so when he called, which is probably even better, right? Because
I think that's even better, because then people are trying to get legit help, and he's like, hello.
Stop calling me right now. Stop calling me.
Death to America.
I think that they should do that, like, to all dipshits that that do stupid things. I mean, I'm not talking, and I'm not trying to get political or anything like that. I don't agree with the guy, but anybody, right? I mean, anybody that does something stupid, cyber or whatever, they should, whatever issue you're causing. Now, granted, whatever he's doing, he didn't cause the derail of the trains or whatever, but I guess the guy's not popular, at least not in much of the world. But I think that it's a good example of what you should do to people if you cause an incident. And like,
why do people keep calling and asking if my refrigerator is running? I don't understand this.
What? What's that, Pascal?
Go catch it. I was gonna say, careful what you wish for, man, because I can come up with a couple scenarios where we forward some calls to you.
I got too many burner phones that the people that actually matter to me know. They're the only ones that know. Scott has them. But
I only text it late at night after I've been drinking.
Yep.
And I'm alone.
So, what's interesting about this though is that I would really like to find more details about this, because this is an OT related hack, supposedly. If they actually, now I don't know if they did it through hack. It says hackers derail. So I'm assuming that they were able to compromise the control systems for the train and do something. If that's true, more so than how funny this is I would actually like to know more details.
I would too, especially with Iran's ongoing cyber feud with Israel, and Israel's no joke, which then, the Israelis aren't really known for being funny and trolling and doing things like that. So that doesn't really make it kind of a Israeli origin for me, in my brain anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. I would like to think that our military has a sense of humor, and maybe they did it. But
our military sure does.
I mean, I was in it, so the fact that they let me in it verifies they have a sense of humor. So anyway, let's move on from that one, because there's really no more information other than speculation and wishful thinking, which is how I live my life.
I wish the author was able to pull more legit information for that, because it's like one of those little teaser trailers. It's just enough to get you interested, but not tell you enough about everything.
Clickbait, right? I just wish they would stop using hackers in the wrong context. to be honest.
Yeah, especially Angelina Jolie.
Yeah. That was a hacker.
Oh,
So,
shoot, the hacker.
wrong headline. That's not the one. Uh-oh, what happened? This one here. I'm going to click on this. All right. This one is great. So China has now effectively brought their entire country back to where the OT industry was 20 years ago in terms of disclosure. That's, if you think back in the day, I mean, this is when I was writing my first book that didn't get published for this reason. Trying to disclose any information about control systems, vulnerabilities, that kind of stuff back then was taboo, quickly squashed. They didn't want it out there because they didn't want it in the hands of hackers because, hackers only read public news. And so so this is effectively what China's done they tightened their control over cybersecurity in a data crackdown by not allowing vulnerability disclosure.
Makes you wonder what the real reason is behind it. Do they want to keep a lot of this stuff for themselves so they can use it in their military presence?
I 100% believe in that. I mean, if you go back and you historically look at the activities of the Chinese government per se, and it makes it incredibly difficult to trust any sort of digital transformation company that comes out of China because of how they operate. With every company has to have a governmental office. They have to have governmental approval backdoors into different systems and things like that. Let alone all of the nation state sponsored espionage that has been proven over time that has come from China. The downfall of Nortel out of Canada is a big, just prime example of what they're capable of. And then the monstrosity that is Yahweh, is that how you pronounce it? Yahweh, I can never pronounce it right. That's spelled weird.
Something along those lines.
And all of the controversy with their equipment and the big 5G push and the back doors that they've already been caught in installing. I have no doubt in my brain that it's an effort to contain that information so that they can either use it to their advantage and or weaponize it in some fashion or another.
Yahweh. Anyway, they said, so the tech experts in China who find a weakness in computer security would be required to tell the government and couldn't sell that knowledge under rules further tightening the Communist Party control of information. So that right there would indicate that's exactly what they want. They want to own the vulnerability data. They don't want it to go public. They're trying to incentivize, like by beatings, that they control those vulnerability information. They have it and it doesn't go public. So the rules would ban private sector experts who find it 0-day or previously unknown security weaknesses. For those of you that don't know what 0-day means, it's not just a slick movie with Chris Hemsworth. Yeah.
It's not just a power drink or an energy drink.
Yeah, it's not.
Although it starts with that energy drink.
It does.
So it says that it keeps them from selling it to police, spy agencies, and companies. Such vulnerabilities have been a feature of major hacking attacks, including blah 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 blah. So under the new rules, anyone in China who finds a vulnerability must tell the government, which will decide what repairs to make. They'll decide. The government will decide. No information can be given to overseas organizations or individuals other than a product's manufacturer. No one may collect, sell, publish information on network product security vulnerabilities. So, yeah, they're trying to keep it internal to China, and they're trying to keep it owned by the government, and that's it. So
much for HackerOne and Bugcrowd.
Well, and you got to think about it too. How much of all these major brands of hardware are all actually built in China? When you look at 80% of Cisco's stable of hardware, where does it come from? It comes from China. Multiple
chips,
other
chips and things like that. Yeah, so that would effectively
bare metal switches, whole 9 yards. So absolutely, the government's going to want to know if you find some sort of 0-day exploit in these chipsets or these bare metal switch fabrics that you're sending overseas to have somebody else's name stamped on. Absolutely, they want that information so that they can take advantage of it.
Well, and it's if this actually goes through, because my first question would be, how are they actually going to know and enforce this? But I don't know if they have all the chips bugged, but anyway, so because so many chips, I mean, look at the chip shortage right now and affecting the automobile industry and everything. So there's so many chips that come from China that are in almost the entirety of network infrastructure,
Yes.
OT, controllers, everything. If China is able to control the vulnerability of those chips and those products and manufacturers,
It's the ultimate supply chain attack.
well, and they would China would be the only ones that actually know, if they could actually pull this off. They would be the only ones that actually know about any vulnerabilities of substance within those chips, within those things manufactured in China. I mean, that is a massive cybersecurity information loss for the rest of the world.
I mean, it's huge. It's absolutely huge, and it's coming from a country that historically cannot be trusted with that type of information.
We're gonna get our stream hacked.
We're gonna be interrupted now.
Yep. So
Well,
I'm gonna have to put up the technical, and it's like we're experiencing technical differences. So yeah, I mean, I don't know where else we can take that conversation other than there. Is that I think that the rest of the world needs to watch this closely. I mean, there's nothing,
very
there's nothing that anybody can do about it. That every country has their own right to enforce their own rules in terms of flow of information and everything else. But I would say if their own citizens and if their own country let their government get away with this, that's going to hurt the entire world significantly, especially when it comes to vulnerability disclosure, cybersecurity in general of anything manufactured in China.
Well, yeah, I mean, all these big companies, Cisco, Hewlett Packard, all these people who use all this hardware that they're producing and these chipsets that they're producing need to pay close attention to this.
Maybe
to
this
sell anything that has any sort of encryption values to China, you have to hand over how your encryption works to the government so that they can backdoor in whenever they want. Which I think is total bullshit, but whatever.
Maybe this is a positive effect, and people are pulling out of China and started manufacturing somewhere else.
Sorry,
right? Yeah, I know. I know where your mind went there. But no,
it's hard to beat a raw manufacturing power base like they've got because they don't give two shits about the environment or anything else like that. That countries like us have restrictions on. So they just pollute everything and trash everything.
Well, we're seeing a lot of this manufacturing already going over to India. So that's another good option to move this out to. But I'm just hoping that people are waking up and saying, maybe we should pay a little bit more. Maybe we should look at different countries to do this because those Chinese cannot be trusted.
Absolutely. And
I want to be specific just because we're talking about the Chinese government, not just the Chinese in general, because I have a lot of Chinese friends who are absolutely trustworthy. It's the government we're talking about.
Oh, correct. Yeah. It's absolutely everything I'm talking about is the government. I'm not referring to individuals. Let me clarify that. This is not Asian bashing.
Yeah, this is the Chinese government. Well, so
this is communist government bashing is really what it is.
And being specific. So here's I got my my references out of order here, but so there it is. I've got some things out of order in my notes here. Let's look at this next one. Let's shift gears. Let's look at one thing that the American government is doing. Add to stream.
We're doing what we do best.
We pay money.
We're throwing
money. So on the flip side, the U.S. State Department is going to pay you up to $10 million for information on foreign cyber attacks. And so, I mean, that just takes bug bounties to a new level. That's like snitch bounty.
It is. How do you go and really prove and verify that before you can get your $10 million? Maybe that's why they can pay so much, because they're not really going to pay. I mean, you have to present Hacker Joe to them and say, this is him, and point.
Yeah, I need to be reimbursed my zip ties.
And then you're talking attribution again. That's a whole different nightmare.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I mean, I think it's well intended, but I would really, just like I would like to see how the Chinese are going to enforce their information disclosure, I would like to see how the U.S. is actually going to verify proper attribution. I mean, granted, it could be done, right? I mean, there are cases where people have gotten arrested and verified.
Well, there's probably a couple of big companies out there that can jump on this and actually do some legitimate work in this and have a nice little payout.
Yeah, I don't see this being any individual bug bounty kind of things, right? I mean,
maybe you can get that guy from the Vice channel to come do an expose on it.
Yeah, offer him $10 million, he'll do it.
The Vice channel, what? The guy that had the TV series on weed?
It was that Cyber War. It was
Cyber War. Yeah. Oh yeah, Indigee was on there, huh? Barack from Indigee was on there.
Yeah, there were a lot of guys. Krebs was on there a couple times.
Yeah.
Robert Lee.
Yep, he was on there.
Who's that?
It was a good show.
Is that the drummer from Motley Crue?
Robert, I think they need to revive that show and bring it back to current. Bring it more up to date with what's currently going on, because that was
good. There was a couple of really good episodes in there.
There really were. I enjoyed the show, but it ended like 2017. Is that what it was?
So Robert said that they'll document the requirements for payment within 90 days. So okay, I'm interested in. Let's watch it and see. I'm thinking new business, new revenue stream.
Hey, it's still better than hiding the evidence, right? Like China does. Hey, let us know if you find something instead of let us know if you find something and we'll hide it for you.
Well, their incentive is prison sentences instead of $10 million.
Yeah, I would say money talks. Prison walk, especially on the Green Mile. Walking the mile. All right. So here's another thing. So speaking of vulnerabilities and all that, I had to bring this up because I think this is pretty funny. So IoT specific malware injections jumped 700% amid pandemic. Well, really? I'm surprised. But by the way, I want to specify IoT, Internet of Things, is not industrial control systems, and industrial control systems is not Internet of Things. We ain't even going to discuss it. If you think that, go somewhere else. All right. Anyway. But yeah, duh. I mean, this is probably not worth talking about. I just want to throw that up there. I thought that was interesting.
Well, you combine devices that are inherently have no security to them with a bunch of wannabe hackers who have nothing but extra time on their hands because they can no longer get out of their mom's basement. This is what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yep. It's to be clear though, I mean, the impact here. So industrial control systems, the consequences and impacts tends to be consequences to safety, production, those in the company's reputation and finances. IoT, while it can affect, there are certain end devices, meters and things like that. I think that electric grid meters start to blur the line between IoT, like thermostats and meters are different, but that because it's on the consumer side and the houses, it starts to blur that line a little bit. Yeah. But I mean, those are
read-only devices.
I think that they're talking. In the article, they're talking literally about
your fridges, your microwaves, stuff like that.
Which I don't want my microwave online. Why does my microwave need to be online?
Sometimes you don't even know it. But oftentimes you'll find in really cheap solutions from vendors that go into a production facility to say, hey, we got this device, you install it, it's going to connect to the cloud, it's going to grab all kinds of information, I can give you this report, and you can work on your OEE, overall equipment efficiency, with our tool. Oftentimes those kind of IoT devices, because that's what they are at that point, those kind of IoT devices are improperly set up, which then lead to get a compromise into your industrial environment.
You're absolutely. You're talking about the IoT sensors and whatnot for all manner of sorts of what do they call that?
They call them smart sensors, I think.
Yeah, smart sensors that then you set up for preventive maintenance and things of that nature. If they're not segmented off properly, absolutely they can be a complete nightmare.
And
But
this
that's the whole
goes
point.
on.
Is the whole point on that stuff is to be read-only devices that have their own routes out that don't touch anything else in your network. However, I have seen personally on OT networks where they just have those devices right there in mainstream along with the rest of their network, and it makes no sense whatsoever. If you don't segment that stuff off, you're asking for trouble.
Yep. I'd say finally a good use case for a data diode.
Oh, totally, absolutely. What was that one?
You're muted,
You're muted.
Clint. It's actually nice.
Sorry.
I know.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I was going to
Pascal,
say.
how have you been?
I was going to say a data diode, or it's a unidirectional gateway if you're using a waterfall device.
I was totally going to bring that up.
Somebody's echoing. I don't know.
Data diode or waterfall.
It's not.
Don't go chasing waterfalls. Anyway, so let's.
Wow, show your age on that one there, buddy.
Well, it's funny. I gotta say this. Look, first of all, I know everybody that works at Waterfall. Not everybody, but I know a lot of people that work at Waterfall. In fact, I used to work with a lot of people that work at Waterfall. It's a good product, good people. Nothing bad about them, but it was funny that 1 year at S4, the Waterfall was sponsoring the cigar party at S4. The social on Wednesday night social, and they had everything set up. And I shit you not, it started to rain, and right as this started to rain, the DJ started playing "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." It was epic. It was epic. So
I met a couple of those guys at an ICS JCG or whatever that is conference up
JWG.
JWG up in Pittsburgh, and they got me really drunk, so I enjoyed that.
All right, let's move on before we start getting certain vendors mad at us. I mean, we do that anyway, but I try to minimize the impact to our litigation. So these are actually, what's funny is we're spending a lot of time talking about these initial discussions because the way it usually works in this show is we'll pick a lot of minor news items and talk about those and then get to the major news items. And it just so happens this week there were so many news items that really had potential to be really good discussion points. So we have more. We actually have more news to talk about this week than what we can get to. So let's move on to the next topic. And this is because I didn't really consider that China, the China talking point would be, such a thing that's like, okay, this is actually something to talk about. That these other things we talked about were interesting, but not impacting. But the China one, I made a mistake in where I placed that. That was potentially impacting. But so let's move on to some topics that are impacting, because as I promised in the beginning with the show notes, that we're moving into new territory. The whole conversation around ransomware and what's happening and how it's morphing has been growing and changing, and we're moving into new territory yet again. So this is interesting in that for the second time in a few weeks already, we've now seen remote code execution vulnerability in a PLC. This is getting concerning to me because
it is.
That's scary.
I'll let you talk a little bit about this, Pascal.
No, I included this because, like in the previous episode, I'm very, very interested in this development, because I think once you get to that point that attackers can put a ransomware or malware on your PLCs, that's going to have an enormous impact on the industry. Try to recover from that at some point, right? So this is a unique one. I'm desperately looking for time to play with it and to see what this kind of access actually allows us to do. But from the vulnerability, it looks like people can do remote code execution. You can upload malware. You can send arbitrary commands. So I think at this point it comes down to what operating system is running on there, and is there enough resources, or is there enough drive to get malware developed for that operating system, right? If we're there, if we get there, that could be devastating.
Well, it says here. Oh, go ahead, Scott.
My question, Pascal, is I'm not familiar enough with the file systems that are actually on PLCs. Can those be vulnerable to encryption and denial of service through classic ransomware type of code execution?
So from what I remember from my Rockwell days, a PLC runs some sort of a form of a real-time operating system, and I would think because when you install a firmware on one of these PLCs, it uses encryption and decryption algorithms to get that firmware installed. So I would think there are decryption or at least decryption, but maybe even encryption routines already present in that operating system. So an attacker could use that. I think it's just a question of somebody doing the research, taking that operating system, putting it into an environment, and start chucking away at some code.
Yeah,
it says
that's frightening.
Yep.
It says here the vulnerability is dubbed Modipone, clever. It allows for a complete takeover of the impacted devices, which include Modicon M340, 580, and other models from the Modicon series. So, on one hand, you can cause damage and do things without completely understanding the process, but a lot of times it's accidental. A targeted attack to purposefully cause catastrophic type impacts that's going to require a lot of research time. It's going to require spending time research on the PLC, on the network, on the process, and understanding the specifics of the process, the specifics of the logic, in order to manipulate it in a way that does something significant and catastrophic. That's because every process is unique. Well, almost all processes are unique, and there are safety protocols and systems in place to prevent certain mixtures and temperatures and overflows and all that. And so it usually is going to take a combined attack. It's going to take a lot of effort, and it as we saw, with Stuxnet, right? And sorry if you're participating in our audience, please have a drink. And it's I don't have a drink other than my coffee. So
Coffee works.
It does sometimes, like crack. All right, but
Well, to that point though, man. What about the water treatment facility in Florida?
I was going to go right. So it depends on the complexity of the process, because that didn't work either technically, because there was an operator that saw it and everything.
Because there was an operator there to save it. Had the operator not even been in the room, had he gone to the bathroom,
or had they combined that with an HMI spoofing attack,
right? And you're already, and I guess my point is you're already in a lightly defended network, or if a network that really didn't have much of the defense at all. So even if you have your basics in place of your network segregation and network VLANing and everything separated and segmented as it should be, that can really help mitigate the risk of something like this. But if you're like that facility in Florida where hey, teams, come on in.
Yep.
That's.
I think you guys are stretching this too far. I see a vulnerability like this it's going to be used as a quick, easy install ransomware, install malware, crash the PLC, and then move on. Right.
That's where I was going to go with it.
Yep. So once you get to that level where you can actually use the process in the PLC to have like a backdoor that you can go and manipulate the code in there, I think there's easier ways of doing that. Like Stuxnet, let's drink again. Like Stuxnet, they use the workstation to upload a modification to the PLC program to do what they wanted to do. I think that's a more viable way and a more easy way, and in a lot of ways, really difficult to detect as well.
Well, that's where I was going to go with this after saying my statement, which is, on one, you have two types of attacks in control systems. You have the ones that are going to be really targeted, really complex, and take a lot of, there's a huge level of effort to be able to do something very targeted and catastrophic. And then there's the kind that is just quick and dirty, right? Whether it's just flipping bits, playing around, crashing a PLC, accidental, or just doing something quick, because it's all about what the goal is for the attacker, right? I mean, if the goal is to position themselves for some sort of nation state attack, like we had on the Tehran facility, because I'm trying to avoid saying the S word, but in order that had a very specific goal for a very specific purpose. But ransomware type stuff is totally different, right? And I don't, do you think attackers have the goal of wanting to lock out PLCs with ransomware, or the SCADA servers enough, or HMIs, or engineering workstations, or do we really even think attackers are yet even still targeting OT specific? They don't have to target OT specific because they're able to target things like transaction servers, that still affect OT operations. So I don't even think that they're getting to the point yet to where they're even worried about having to. They don't have to worry about figuring out malware on PLCs, or ransomware on PLCs, as long as they have other easier avenues that work.
So I'd hinted on this, or I think maybe not hinted at, but I talked about this in the last episode. I think this is just a part of the perfect storm that's brewing, where we're going to find ransomware attackers, ransomware APTs, or whatever you want to call them, where they go out and they infiltrate our systems. They take care of encrypting our backups, databases, files and stuff. But then on top of that, they go out and encrypt the PLCs as well. So there is no physical way to even recover from it. So they basically blanket a complete organization from beginning to end, every single aspect of it, which gives them a better opportunity or better chance to getting a ransom.
That would be absolutely detrimental.
Look at it. Hello Kitty, we're going to talk about it in a bit, but there's a lot of these ransomware strains, maybe not a lot, there's 2 of them that they know of right now. There's 2 of them that have been ported to Linux, and they've been ported to Linux just so they can target vCenter and vSphere.
Yeah, but why don't we go ahead and talk about that? Because I mean, we've still got like 5 topics we could cover, 3 major topics, so we're going to actually have some of this we're going to have to talk about again next week. But since you went ahead and brought that up, let's go ahead and
say hello, Kitty.
I was reading that article and my daughter walked in and she was like, Dad, why are you reading about Hello Kitty? And I'm like, all right. Well, then that led into a whole discussion of trying to explain what ransomware is to a 10-year-old.
Oh, my kids know. You click on something, you're going to lose all of your files. You're going to lose all of your games, all of your worlds in Minecraft.
I taught my 8-year-olds. Ransomware. I took away their Nintendo Switch. And I said, "Go clean your room. You're not getting your Nintendo Switch back. That's ransomware." All right.
There you go.
But so we talked about this in a previous episode, how ransomware was now moving into Linux, and now even more, and because of ESXi server. So now Hello Kitty is now moved into the Linux. Now we have more and more ransomware being able to take over the core of virtualization, which is a scary premise.
Yep.
Well, that was think about that too. That's been a way that a lot of people have been able to just thwart ransomware, because if it affects a VM, who cares? Shut down the VM, fire up another one, and you're golden. And that's been kind of whether it's legitimate or not, a defense strategy against ransomware is virtualizing your environment. So now if they're straight up targeting the source of that virtual environment, that brings it up into a whole nother ballgame. And now it's not just the easy peasy shut it down and fire up a new one.
Yeah. And it's not just hitting one machine at a time. You hit the core, you're locking up everything that's virtualized on that ESXi metal.
Yep. Big target.
I think not too. How many OT environments are virtualizing now?
It's getting to be more and more.
Moving to thin clients and virtualization.
It's been my recommendation for years to do virtualization on the OT for many reasons, security and compatibility, right? And backwards compatibility stuff.
Yep.
I'm just going to say, ransomware on your workstations, on your clients, on the enterprise side, it happens, right? And nobody's to blame anymore. But if you get ransomware on your vCenter or ESXi servers, you're doing something wrong, because that should be
someone's gonna lose their job.
Yeah, because that should be so shielded off. It should be behind lock and door. Or it should be on its own network. You should have a dedicated workstation that maybe not even connected to the internet to do this. Because typically you don't have to be on there day in, day out, and especially not from an internet connected device.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, this is just an example of what we talked about a few weeks ago, which was, now that ransomware is starting to hit Linux and ESXi server, we're going to see this more and more. And this is just a bit of a foresight of what's to come.
What's interesting is are they going to use this as a jumping point to actually start targeting Unix?
I think they're basically already doing, right. If they have a Linux version of the Hello Kitty,
because then all of a sudden now you have the banking mainframe infrastructure vulnerable to all this.
Yeah, but I think in general, I would say outside of finances and maybe some healthcare, I mean, Unix is going by the wayside. I mean, you're seeing all these systems being replaced. I remember when Telnet replaced their main Linux system with, I think, DNA, I think it was, which was Windows based. So, or whatever. So I remember when all these SCADA systems and DCS systems started moving to Windows. So I think it's going by the wayside.
I wouldn't say just the financial system.
Well, I mean, I'm not familiar with other industries that I'm familiar with the financial system or financial industry and the industrial and healthcare.
Well, when I say it's not just because the importance of the financial sector,
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So because that would be absolutely detrimental if all of a sudden, Citibank's mainframes all of a sudden were locked up. You think your money's going to be safe in their accounts anymore? Nope.
Yeah, and I'd lose all my points from my United Plus card, which is a Citi card. So,
yep, yeah, that would be terrible.
So, we've got about 4 minutes, and there's so much to talk about. One thing I want to close out with before we get to our guest discussion is, so this is interesting in that, where's it at? I wish I could close this advertisement out, but anyway, so the ransomware, the Our Evil gang that hit the meat supplier, but also hit Colonial, and they
no, it wasn't Colonial drink. It was Kaseya.
Sorry, Kaseya. So, well, I'm just going to leave this up here for a minute, because the ransomware that hit Colonial, or the actor that hit Colonial, and now the actors Are Evil or Rebel that hit JBS and Kaseya, they've all disappeared. So, I mean, and before, let me acknowledge something else first. First, I want to acknowledge the fact that because they actually kind of screwed up their technique in the way that they compromised the backups.
Are these guys called Rebel, or are they called Are Evil?
I've heard it both. I think it's Are Evil, but it's easier to say Rebel. So anyway, let's just call them Rebel, because I like to revel in their disappearance. So so first of all, it's funny that a lot of the victims from the Kaseya attack are actually not paying, because they screwed up it was an affiliate of the Rebel. They screwed up deleting the backups and all this stuff like that. So they're not getting their 70 million. And so that's the first thing that happened. And then
poor guys.
Yeah. And then now they've kind of gone off the internet. And what it says is, it says right here, websites and other infrastructure belonging to the cybercriminal gang, which is believed to operate from Eastern Europe or Russia. What's the Eastern European from Eurotrip, Bratislava or whatever? Anyway, maybe that's where they're from. Went dark on Tuesday.
They're from
as
Sokovia.
most observers of the group found they were unable to connect to Revel's webpage listing its victims. Now, that being said, there's a lot of widespread speculation about what may have occurred. Theories range from planned system downtime to a coordinated governmental strike. I would say it would be very unlike a cyber criminal gang to have scheduled system maintenance without giving us we're currently down for system maintenance and elevator music. But, since that didn't occur, I doubt that's the case. But I would not doubt now because the perpetrators of Colonial and sorry, I'm going to
Stop.
Get you drunk on water. And the Rebel folks, and they all seem to kind of disappear. Because if you remember, the first ones, they went online and started this apology campaign. Oh, we didn't mean it. We didn't mean it to affect society. And then they disappeared. And now these guys are disappearing.
Dumbest thing ever. You're going to commit a crime and then go, oh, sorry, my bad.
We were successful. Sorry.
Yeah, I think there's some people getting droned, or something. I don't know. I think this is going to be something to watch. I mean, I'm going to feel like a complete ass for them making a big deal about this and talk about how people are disappearing. And it turns out they were just they really were on ISPs. Yeah, or something. But I think it's interesting that these massive cyber criminal gangs asking for all this money that are doing this and affecting infrastructure that are kind of going quiet. It's not out of the realm of possibility that there's some people get sniped. I mean,
yeah. Or they're just playing it smart, like, hey, we got a tremendous amount of heat on our back right now. Maybe it backfired. They were too successful. Too many companies got owned.
Yeah.
And
well,
they're like,
let's
split. Because it's easy to pop up with a different name, right?
Right.
Eventually, you're gonna have smart people who do some forensics and some research, and they'll find out, okay, these used to be Revel, and they're now called Not Evil or something.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Right.
But until then, let's hide for a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of until then, look, we're at the end of our time for our scheduled broadcast. Yeah, I mean, we're already at a quarter after, which is our 45 minutes. And so for those of you that want to stick around, this is the time where we discuss with our guest and our vendor. But the one thing I will say, one thing I'm going to, it's like, okay, we're going to do this. Like, all right, Scott, it's your turn to talk about yourself. But just kidding. So anyway, before we get there,
that was awesome.
Before we get there,
say anything.
I do want to mention though that this episode seemed rushed because with so many to talk about. However, what I'm noticing about all the topics is that these topics are continuations of topics that we've had over the previous weeks. Because I mean, this is the way the news is just happening. So I have no doubt that we're going to end up visiting these topics again next week and the week after, just because everything is evolving from the ransomware perpetrators disappearing to more RTE attacks on PLCs and everything. So this is going to be an evolving subject that it's not like we're touching over all this stuff lightly right now. But I can tell you, these are going to be evolving and revolving stories. We're going to be talking about this same stuff, but in evolution over the course of the next several weeks. So
until you hit 80.
Well, at that point, I'll have my bio heart, bio brain, extra memory, bio penis, and everything, and I'll be immortal. So I'm not worried about it.
Right.
So
as long as you can make your payments on all those body parts, because they'll come and repo.
Ransomware. Anyway, maybe that's what they're up to. So anyway, let's so that we're going to end our broadcast there. However, before we end it, as tradition would hold, because we have enough episodes to have a tradition now. So Scott, you are from GPA, and this is typically we let the vendors kind of talk about their product and their company a little bit. Last week, Ted from SecurityGate.io, he wanted to talk about some local things going on. So it's your choice, but I do want to mention that GPA just had a recent release of GPA Identify, your risk management solution, 3.0. And so, we're excited about that with you because you guys are integrating the IVSS, which we're your development partners on.
Correct.
And so, I'm let you take the floor now.
Well, as far as the IVSS scoring, I'll leave that to the brain children of it, Bill and Brian, because those guys are crazy smart, and their development in this product.
Wait, who are the brain children of the IVSS?
Did he say crazy smart?
Wait, well, you
smart.
The,
Well, as far as the integration, the brain children of the integration.
Oh, because it's like there's a crazy right here that developed IVSS, but that's okay. It's okay.
Well, no, I mean, those are the guys who are doing the integration into the product itself, which is a little beyond me. When it comes to GPA, I'm kind of like the first wave that goes in and helps a site with all of their cybersecurity basics,
the Vanguard,
network stability, and whatnot, in order to prep the landing space for Identify to come in and do all of the magic that it does. Because really, it's magic. I don't understand how it works. And this whole scoring thing, when I learned how to read properly, I really want to figure out how to read that all the way through.
It's just some weird language.
So real quick, what for the audience? What is GPA Identify?
GPA Identify is kind of a multifaceted device that can you put on your network, and you can either use it in a passive or an active function to give you an idea of what you actually have on your network landscape. And once you get that depiction built, you can then start using it to run risk assessment reports on everything, and you can integrate it into your systems so that you constantly get updated alerts on where your system needs to be with things like firmware and whatnot, because it integrates the CS. What is it? The other database that I can never remember. It's too many acronyms.
CBSS?
Thank you. The various vulnerability databases and whatnot, and now with the integration of the IVSS scoring system, it's just going to increase the utility tenfold. So,
well, and what's interesting is you guys, developed this. You guys didn't start out as a product company, right? You guys developed this as a result of, because you're consultants. You're DCS, you're process automation integrators, and then also as a result of that, you became process automation, cyber risk management.
Yeah, our consulting and automation business had grown so much, and every time we would go into a place, they would need a lot of network work, and thus our division in GPA was born. And that's what our division does. We have a whole stable of automation engineers that do all manner of integration work. And then there's our team, which does the network and intelligence side that can help build up that infrastructure so it can better support your automation needs. And again, so I'm on like the first wave team for network support and stability. And then once I've gotten everything in place and helped them improve their basic security stance, is when we swoop in with Bill and the big dogs and the more advanced things with Identify and bringing in some threat gen action. So there's a lot going on with that.
There's a lot of threat gen action, but it really, it's ultimately you guys are. So GPI Identify it's an industrial cyber risk management tool for industrial operators by industrial operators, or by auto engineers, for engineers by engineers.
It even comes in an industrial package, right? Because if I'm not mistaken, one of the neatest things is that you got a ruggedified appliance that does it. And I'm sure you got one under your desk.
I do.
Yeah, look at that. He's about to show us. Show and tell. I thought he was just ducking out because he didn't want to talk anymore. like Ted did last week.
I got too much stuff on it.
All right, so
he's gonna fall out of his chair.
He just dropped it twice, and the thing's still gonna work. That's how rugged.
Yeah, it's a demonstration. He's gonna throw it on the ground like I did my light earlier today.
I have one of the older models, but this is essentially a GPI identifier.
Oh, it looks like an old the rugged the corrugated aluminum structure there. Look, it looks like my old Blaupunk amp.
This was our Moxa version. Our newer versions, we're using a different shell, and they're more compact, and they can actually hold and store and do more. but it's fantastic because we always use full industrial grade chassis that you can din melt right up and integrate right in with whatever process that you need us working on.
Because who's got a 19-inch rack in their industrial environment at that level?
Well, and that's the whole point is where do you go that you'll find a 19-inch rack just sitting in the middle of your manufacturing
Next to the
floor?
PLC.
And we do so much work in pulp and paper. That's just not possible because you want to talk about a toxic environment for anything electronic. You know, if you don't have an industrial grade device, it's just not going to survive.
I know. Been there. Don't want to go back.
Well, we look forward to seeing more of what comes out of GPA and with Identify. We look forward to that. And I will mention again that, by no means is GPA a sponsor of the show. That way I don't have to tag it as such on YouTube. But they're not a sponsor. We just like to, to thank them for coming on the show. We like to give them some time to talk about what it is they do and their products. But I will disclose that GPA is a partner with ThreadGen mutually. We sell each other's products and services, and we work together, and we enjoy doing so. And we've had a great relationship with the company and maybe some of the people in it ever since we met at the former WeissCon. So I look forward to many, many years of working together until we both get our exits and get rich. But
absolutely.
Outside of that, thank you for being on the show. Thanks again, Pascal. It was, like I said, so much to talk about. I wish we had more time, but we don't.
We got 4 topics left for next week. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
That was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that. I hope I can come back and hang out with you guys on this again.
Anytime,
we would love to have you back. We definitely want to. We have a huge list of guests to get through on the first round. Once we get through the first round of guests, we would love to have certain guests back. Absolutely.
You guys got to get Bill. You guys got to get Bill and Brian on at the same time because they're dynamic. Phenomenal.
Yeah, we can get a little 4-way action going on the show. So absolutely.
I heard that about you.
Yep, absolutely. So all right, we got to go. All right, like Mrs. Doubtfire would say, okay, bye-bye.